Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Odyssey House Journals. I'm Randall Carlisle. My co-host, Rachel Santizo. Our guest is Allyssa Bailey, and we will introduce her in a second. You know, if you remember last week, I was mad about the fact that some states are not allowing fentanyl test strips, right?
Yes.
Okay. Well, nothing's changed, so I don't have that much influence. But I'm happier with this news story I found.
Okay.
The Biden administration has unveiled the 2022 National Drug Control Strategy, and it's focusing on untreated addiction and drug trafficking, and not small-time stuff like arresting addicts or anything like that, but trying to go for big-time dealers and allocating more money for education, for harm reduction, and for treatment. So there's good news. Okay.
Good, sir.
It's not all bad news, right?
So you're happier this time?
I'm happier. I was angry about that fentanyl test strip thing. I just don't understand how you can say something like that should be outlawed.
Well, and I'm glad that you're angry, right? Angry, like being angry is motivating, and it's the passion behind it. We need to be angry because that's not okay. Why are we putting our efforts there? That's not where the effort should be.
It's the whole issue of harm reduction. When people hear, and our Martindale Clinic does harm reduction, right. And when people hear, well, you're handing out new needles to heroin addicts, you're encouraging them to continue with their addiction.
Right. No, we're not. What we're doing is we're providing safety in our community.
You're trying to stop the spread of hepatitis, AIDS, stuff like that, people dying.
Right.
You know, you're not saying, hey, it's okay. We're just saying we recognize where you are, what you're doing, and we're trying to take care of you the best way we can.
People just forget the fact that human lives are priceless. Oftentimes always forget that fact. So.
I know, and it bothers me that people say, "Oh, you're a drug addict, therefore you're not worth anything."
Yeah, or what's behind that title and the stigma of being a drug addict.
Right. We have a wonderful guest here, Allyssa Bailey, and I think you were only this will be like our 119th podcast, and I think you're only the second person we've ever talked to who has gone through Odyssey's Adolescent program. So
cool.
We're excited to have you here.
I'm excited to be here.
Can you tell us just a little about what happened that you got into Odyssey's Adolescent program? Did you self-admit? Were you court-ordered? What happened?
So pretty much the best way I can explain that is I had, from the age of like 15, kind of started my little treatment journey at uni. I did like 5 days in uni. My parents were just I don't think that they were very aware about seeking appropriate help for any behavioral issues that I had. And I'm not sure that they knew exactly like what route to take for that. I never really had like any true or an intentional suicidal ideations, but that was my first step, is going there after speaking with a social worker. And then my mother pretty much making that decision for me, just that she didn't feel comfortable with me at the house.
What kind of behavioral issues?
So as far as the behavioral issues, a lot of it was defiance since a very young age, like toddler years. Defiance in just throwing temper tantrums. I had an issue with like manipulation, like I would always, do certain things to get my way, and I did not like being told no.
Up till this point, you sound like any other typical teenager.
Yeah, serious, exactly. So, just didn't like being told no. I always did extremely well in school. I academically was very on top of schooling. I enjoyed it. But as far as the behavioral side of that, I would do small things like skip a couple of classes and go and hang out with my friends and smoke a little pot at lunch and then come back. After a few times of doing that, you're going to get caught eventually. But once my parents found out, despite it being marijuana, not to say that it's, acceptable, obviously, especially at a young age where it's very impressionable and your brain is not fully developed. They felt that the mix of both my acting out and the minor drug use was an issue. So from after uni being the first little Kickstarter, I guess you could say, I started a program, DBT, Dialectical Behavioral Therapy. I did that at the age of 16 for about 7 months and successfully graduated that program. That was in my sophomore year. I recall going back to high school after that and kind of not necessarily immediately fell back into things, but because the peer pressure and the temptation and my same group of friends was still there, it was really easy to just kind of fall back right into that. So I picked up using pot again, cutting classes with my friends, and the behaviors at home. My house was very dysfunctional. There was a lot of contention between my mom and I, and my mom suffers from things like PTSD with her trauma growing up, with like physical abuse in the home from her parents. She had also been a heavy drug user prior to me being born. She had me at 20 years old. But she smoked marijuana. She even up to, as far as I'm aware, had kind of dabbled around with methamphetamine. So kind of after being having that being brought to my attention, I was just kind of thinking like, it's kind of hypocritical of you to put me in this, but you've not really sought help for yourself. And I guess that made me more angry for some reason, so in terms of being more angry, you tend to act out, even more so.
What was your worst acting out?
A lot of it was just verbal, like yelling matches.
Okay.
I was never like ever super physical. Never had any self-harm or like, I don't know. I feel like generally I was a pretty good kid, but my parents...
sound
pretty
I
know.
know.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying is I'm like just now, especially now that I look back at it being 3 years, I'm just like the audacity that my parents had. Sometimes I'm like, what the heck? So yeah.
Did your mom smoke pot or use meth while you were growing up?
No. She did use marijuana, not ever in my eyesight, but from other families, conversation that was something that I had figured out. I had asked her like one time, I was like, hey, like, have you or my stepdad like ever smoked marijuana while I was growing up with my siblings? And she admitted yes. And I recall like maybe like 3 weeks later we had a conversation and we started to get into a little bit of a contingency, and I called her out on it, and she just looked at me and she's like, how dare you, like I would never do something like that. And I was like, you just told me that you did, like how can you go back when I'm calling? Obviously I get if you're calling someone out in front of other people, you want to look like the good person, but I was like, you're my mother, why lie? Yeah, after DBT, I pretty much just went back to high school, had a couple months there, and because the behavior kind of relapsed back into the same thing and they weren't comfortable with me at the home, I got admitted into Odyssey.
Was that more like
Did you go
mom?
screaming and kicking?
Yeah.
Or
I believe I had spent like maybe two or 3 weeks in total at JRC, the Juvenile Receiving Center down in South Salt Lake. My parents had just kind of been like, done. They just expressed that they were done. My stepdad mentioned to me at that time that he only needed, like bare minimum, wanted and needed to provide food on the table, clothes on my back, a school to go to, and a roof over my head. But he did not, really want to be there for anything else.
Okay. Emotionally.
Yeah, emotionally was definitely very, like, again, when I look back at these things, like, I definitely don't want to say it was, like, emotionally abused, but there was definitely, like, a lack of care and attend to me.
Yeah, like, how did that make you feel?
Really, like, I still hold a lot of resentment, but after realizing the situation, in the time, I, again, was very angry and just confused. I want to say more confused because as the child, like, you look up to your parents and you just go by really what they say, even if you're confused or not.
Yeah.
As well as having my stepdad in the picture, I have 2 younger sisters of the age of, now they're 14 and 8. Included in my upbringing, which had probably influenced a lot of my behavior, was my mother's health. We have some hereditary things that run in the family as far as like MS, degenerate disc, just a couple of, back problems. And she just out of the blue, probably when I was 8 or 9, started to get sick, and her health just started to deteriorate like immensely.
So you enter Odyssey House, adolescent facility, more for emotional issues as opposed to drug issues.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so, I mean, how did the first couple of weeks go? Because this is a residential facility, and you go in there, and it's scary because you don't know anybody, and with a bunch of other kids, age what, 13 through 17.
Yep.
They have classrooms. They go to school there. They have some strict rules, but everybody there is different. So all of a sudden, you're innocent. What was it like?
So I remember the first day, like the back of my hand, I had to strip myself of all jewelry and take a shower with like that little stuff that they give you. And I was like, okay, this is interesting, but this is a cool experience.
No cell phones.
No cell phones. And you're kind of just immediately brought into the house. I remember everyone was in the DR, or the dining room, and just like journaling or whatever. It was very quiet, not necessarily eerie, but it was definitely quiet. So I was like really nervous.
Hey, who's the new kid?
And it's just everyone sitting down, and here I come with one of the staff members, and I'm walking down, and I just see everybody, and I'm like, okay. I had, I don't want to say thankfully, because sometimes it can be a bad thing, but I had recognized 2 of the people, one of which I went to high school with. And so I was like, okay, maybe this won't be the worst experience because I'm not completely alone, but I definitely was very anxious. I've struggled with anxiety from a young age, from about the age of 12, 13. So coming into a new, just a whole new setting was very like unsettling, which I had kind of already had experience with going into like other, treatments and things like that. At first I was so angry you couldn't even imagine, but they give you little journals, and I journaled every single day. I did not miss one single day. If you can imagine, that's almost 365 entries. So I prior to coming and doing this morning, I yesterday and the day before had kind of just gone through and looked at some of my old things, and read through some passages and like little notes and things like that. But gradually, I would say even between the first 2 or 3 weeks, I cried at night because I just felt so alone and scared and not sure what was to come. But never did I feel like uncomfortable in the sense that there was nobody there for me. I had just great experiences with all the staff members for the most part. I've really always clinged to people who are older than me, so obviously I made friendships with the kids, but the staff was always to me like, I'm here to learn, I'm here for a reason, I'm here to just gain as much knowledge as possible, and, they're more so who I would look for that towards. But also you can gain many, learning experiences from watching and observing, the kids and stuff. So as we kind of go throughout the first 3 months, which is what I was there for, we had like family therapy like every other Sunday or something, right? And that first 3-month mark, my parents came in and my therapist and I had sat there and we're just kind of talking about the progress that I've made, or like, here's what we're seeing that she's like struggling with. And it kind of just started like in every 3 month, we're going to, hit and see if you're ready to go type of deal. And every single time my parents were like, we just don't feel like she's ready. We're not seeing the progress. And that would make me so upset because I'm sitting here every day, like trying to do my best. There's certain
You're working your butt off.
Exactly. You have rules, like super not hard rules, but when you don't want to do something, it makes it hard. So, you have all these rules to adhere to and all these things that you're learning. And so I'm sitting here every family session like, are you guys like blind? Like, what's going on? I'm learning so much. Like, how can you not see the progress?
What did you do that first time? So, because I know for me, like when I was in treatment, that time expectations is so dangerous for us.
Yeah.
And so that first time, that first 3 months, you think you're going to go home and they see that you're not. So I'd love that message of hope. Like, what did you do?
At first,
that
time? I would definitely say, and I don't want to say it was every time, but there were a lot of times where, I'd get upset to the point where I just want to give up. I'm like, what am I even here for now? Like, I'm still learning things, but I'm just like, what the heck? It's not worth it. Like, what's the worst if I, do something opposite of what I'm told? Like, okay, I might get my shoes taken away for 2 weeks, but, if they don't want me home, I just guess I won't go home. So I'd kind of get in little patterns to where if that happened and I'm upset in the moment, to just completely drop it all. And that probably took me like 2 or 3 times to realize you can't do that. You just have to keep going. No matter how upset you are, no matter how frustrated, if I allow myself to let their view of me get the best of me, that's just going to cause me more, harm than help. And so if I know at the end of the day when I lay my head on my pillow what I've done and who I am, and I'm getting to know myself and getting to learn more self-care and love myself more, why does it matter what anybody else thinks? So I guess at that point, I just started to prove more to myself than anybody. And that's where it kind of became like a whole new journey and a fun learning experience, despite the little, fun things that we would do.
That must have been frustrating. Yeah, if you're not aware of Odyssey's program, even with adolescents, it's a strict program. You'd go along with that, right?
Serious.
And to be, it's been so long since I've been a teenager, but I was a rebellious teenager, and I can only imagine you're following all these rules that you don't fully understand or agree with all the time, but you do it.
Yeah.
And then to have your parents come in and not recognize that you've been doing this, it'd be like, why am I doing this?
Yeah.
I give you a lot of credit
Honestly.
for what you just said about realizing that you're doing it for yourself, not to please them or anything, but just yourself. That's important.
It's remarkable. You are remarkable.
At that age.
Actually.
Wow.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of, it's kind of funny because I'm still young. I'm only 21. But when I look at the world at such a big picture, I am just like, why aren't people more focused on themselves? Everyone's trying to either, people please or get something out of somebody. And then it causes them to make bad decisions. Or, if you're already making bad decisions and you kind of quarrel with those who do the same. And if you just be by yourself, once you learn to be happy alone, I feel like you can share that with people and then kind of just overflows from there. But after leaving Odyssey,
I was going to say, you stayed for how long? 11 months?
Yeah, 11 months.
Did you graduate high school in Odyssey?
Yeah, I did. Yeah. I was an early high school graduate. I got a scholarship from Horizonte. That was such a good experience. I immediately went into my first semester at Salt Lake Community College after that.
Yay.
And started doing general studies. Which I haven't completely made up my mind yet, which is okay. But with my experience at Odyssey, I was so passionate so that like psychology was like my thing. I was like, you know, if I can, with my experience, go in and be a mentor or be able to help people with my mindset and just kind of, you know, share that, I thought what a better way to kind of give back, you know, and kind of reciprocate those things. But
the Odyssey program, we have what is it, 3 classrooms there, and teachers from the Salt Lake District, Horizonte, and the cool thing that people don't realize is that when you only have like maybe 20 kids in the house, you've got such great teacher to pupil ratio for individualized attention.
It was so much better. I would never even, you know, I would have never even thought about that as well. I don't want to say that I wasn't ever on the track of not graduating if I were to have continued to go to my high school. But I definitely appreciated the more one-on-one and the closeness and the relationship that I had with my teachers, because I have never really had like a learning disability, but I have ADD, so my brain is just everywhere. And so when I'm trying to sit there and learn, I don't want to be there. But I'd always get my homework done. That was the interesting thing, is like my subconscious would be listening to what's going on, but I'm over here like doodling or doing something completely different during class. But, you know, I never hesitated to ask any questions if I needed help on something, and it got me to where I wanted to be.
The teachers there are pretty cool.
Way cool.
Yeah.
Way cool. Love them.
They care.
They do care.
I'm trying to remember the guy's name that's been there for a long time.
There's, if I recall, Anders.
Yes.
Yeah.
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 And he cares.
Yeah.
You know, they care. They care.
Yes, they really do.
So you finally get out of Odyssey. Who made that decision? Odyssey, your parents, you? I mean, how did that work? Because you were turning 18.
Yeah, I was about a month and a half away of turning 18. I had no idea that day was happening, so I do think it was just a combination of my parents and Odyssey. Whatever conversation they had, I still don't know, but here I am. So.
And you look back upon that as a good experience.
Yeah. Despite me, like I always, you know, it would have been nice to graduate, like officially, like have that documentation, like, hey, like you finally did it. But despite not having that piece of paper, it doesn't make it any less worth the experience, and nor does it take away like my successes, you know. Right. So that's the biggest thing I look at is, you know, I had a little bit of an oopsie near the end. But, you know, all through life you have ebbs and flows, and nothing's going to go, you know, how you expect. There's always going to be, you know, different little things that happen.
So what are you doing now? I mean, like, what are you doing now? What's your future?
So right now, I had mentioned, like, I was really passionate about studying psychology and everything. I only did 1 semester at Slick. I didn't really feel after I had done that semester that I wanted to continue with like general studies. More so because of what I want to go into, being like in psychology. I don't know what within psychology. If I would like to get like a bachelor's in either doing something like, whether it be social work or being an actual therapist or a counselor, again, even just...
We need social workers and therapists.
Yeah, really. I really think that it's important, and mental health it just needs to be, you know, on the front page of like everything. I feel like once you have, you know, your mental health under control, like you have the world at your hands. So right now I'm going to school for aesthetics, kind of a different turn.
Yes.
Yeah, so skincare, all that fun stuff. I have just finished, so I'm about to take my state boards soon.
Good luck.
I'm really nervous, but it'll be good. I'm more worried about like the written tests, because there's just so much that you have to retain, but I am definitely confident. And then, after that, you know, working in like a little med spa or something like that would be just awesome. So I'm really excited for that. I've been doing this for about 8 months now. I kind of started in the back of August, beginning of September, and that's been really fun. I had wanted to do that for a couple of years, but, I couldn't really make up my mind. And who knows, I can always be that esthetician who takes clients and has little therapy sessions.
It's true.
Yeah, while you're doing your thing.
Yeah, serious. So, maybe
that'd be
we'll have the
unique,
best of
wouldn't
both
it?
worlds.
It'd actually be cool.
Yeah.
We can
Yeah. You just lay there for like 2 hours, get your lashes done, and have a whole
Absolutely.
session. So
I
you
would.
never know.
I'm amazed what a level head she has. I mean, you just seem like you have it really together.
I mean, I'm not perfect. Like I said, life has, ups and downs, goes through its ebbs and flows. But I've really, despite my daily struggles, I've really harnessed, the skills that I've been taught. Doing, a mindfulness activity every single day is so important. Whether you look outside and notice 10 things that you didn't see yesterday, even if it's the same picture, or meditating, listening to music. I'm very musically inclined. Music has been one of my outlets since I was very young, which is also something I love to incorporate because it's so powerful. But yeah.
I'm a huge fan. I can't wait to see what you do next.
I know. She's got such a great future
I'm so
because
excited.
I know.
you rarely hear people, and I'm not putting anybody down who leaves Odyssey's program, but you rarely hear people, whether it's adult program or the adolescent program, with saying the things she said. I mean, it's amazing. You're not here to please Odyssey or your counselors or your parents. You're here to take care of yourself.
Yeah.
If everybody had that attitude, things would go a lot easier in all our residential
Really,
houses.
Really.
Absolutely.
And I definitely still have my struggles. Like I said, I still struggle sometimes with, getting upset at things. And, I do have my consequences if I'm not just taking that quick step back for even 2 to 5 minutes and just really, just calming myself down and realizing, my little motto is choose kindness and everything's going to be okay. I definitely believe, if you just let time do its thing and, just kind of, you're not your mind. You kind of have to separate the two and put yourself out of how you're feeling and how you're thinking. And if you just give it that time and, it'll all pass. This too shall pass. Whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, this too shall pass. But
Is there anything that you do? So it seems like you do kind of gratitude every day. Are you still connected with anything or today? Are you doing this on your own? You just
Pretty much, yeah. I live on my own in a little studio downtown. I have friends and family. My family and I are a little bit distant, especially my parents. I don't really have, it's unfortunate to say, but I really do not have any type of relationship with my mom and her family. I haven't really spoken to them in a while. But for good reason. I feel like, if I have to make that decision to distance myself so that I'm not, taunted or, influenced to fall back into certain behaviors, which were primarily, presented in my upbringing, then that's the way it has to be. But yeah, living on my own and learning how to be, again, just genuinely happy with who you are and going on that life mission is something so incredible. It can get lonely, you're always going to have some part of you that you might feel like is missing, or you're going to wake up and wonder what your purpose is, today. But, just even being, in the present moment and in the now, is sometimes, good in itself. You kind of just here for the ride.
She's
so.
made me feel better too. I feel like I've
know.
gone to a therapy session with her.
I know.
I'm telling you.
Oh my
Yeah,
gosh. You are
You-
remarkable is my word
Thanks.
for you.
We'd love
you.
to hire you at Odyssey, of course, if you'd like to come back
know.
sometime.
I know.
Give me a call.
Especially if you live downtown.
The
Yeah.
world is in your hands, and I'm just,
Yeah.
you are
Yeah.
incredible.
Thank you.
Rachel,
I am
Thank you.
so proud of you.
Was in
appreciate
charge
that.
of one of our residential houses.
Yeah.
How would you like to have 40 of hers around?
In my pocket.
Yeah, I know.
In my
Yeah.
pocket. I'm
Yeah.
so proud of you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You
Yeah,
are incredible.
thanks for coming. Were you nervous before you came in here?
I'm always nervous. I have anxiety, so it comes with whatever
can't
you got,
tell.
what you got going on. Well, good.
Yeah.
Good.
No, thank you for coming in and sharing your story. And hopefully, hopefully, if you're watching or listening, she didn't go in. A lot of people come into our programs for substance use, and that wasn't the primary reason. It was for behavioral health, and we do a good job with that as well. And it made me feel good to hear that it worked for you.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't work for everybody.
This is true, and I definitely feel like a lot of it is, and for everyone that I recall and who I've met, which was over 100, youth. For every single one of them, I always felt, good energy, whether they've made, their mistakes or they've done something super bad, or done like the worst drug possible. There's still good people, and there's light within everybody, no matter how young or old you are. And you're always able to find that again, like your inner child. You're always able to find that again. And that's what I love about myself is I've never let my inner child go. So I feel like, why not just be the happy one, be the happy being, and have hope, because there's hope. I don't know.
You're a marvelous person. Thank you for being our guest.
Thank you. I appreciate
Thanks,
it.
Rachel. Allyssa Bailey was our guest today. Hope you got something out of that. We certainly enjoyed learning from you as well. So thank you guys, and thank you for watching another edition of Odyssey House Journals.